Thank you.
Brenda Adams, here. John Bradley. I know I saw John earlier.
Yep,
John is on, or was
Yeah, he is
minute
on.
ago.
Okay. Supervisor Collins. Terrence Duval. I saw
Here.
Terrence. Okay. Suzanne Blum. Dan Haas. Supervisor Hotley. Kara Humphrey. Claudia Kenny. Supervisor Knott. Wendy Notified. Bill Mancini.
Yeah.
Don Mel.
Yep.
Matthew Mercier.
Yep. Here.
David Newman.
Yep.
Michael O'Hara.
Yep.
Patrice Perry is on. Jennifer Notified. Jennifer Phillips. Steve Powers.
Here.
Jolene Grace Notified. Jody Rail. Bruce Schenker Notified. And I have Matt Ditchcombe. And
here.
Audrey Cropp.
Okay.
Here.
Ready.
Anyone who I didn't read?
Did we miss anyone? Speak up or forever hold your peace. You will not show up in the minutes. Thank you, Maureen.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Let's get rolling, and we'll try to be efficient as always, but thank you all for joining. We are going to start, well, I mean, let's just reflect for a minute. I was just saying before on that July was actually the wettest July on record for our area, and that we got more rain than we typically get in a full summer in 1 month, and that's good in some ways to get all that rain. And I think given how much we got, we did recharge a lot of our groundwater. I'm not an expert in hydrology, but I know that to be the case to some extent, and we need that. But I think it was very challenging for a lot of farmers in particular to manage around that. Cutting hay when you can't get dry weather, or fields that are flooded out, you can't get into to either plant or harvest, especially grain and sometimes vegetables. And combining that with the late frost that we had in May, which really zapped a lot of fruit in our area and in I think the whole Northeast. It's been a challenge. And so, I mean, it's easy as I think a layperson to sit back and say, oh, it's nice, good weather, and we're getting rain. We're not in a drought. And, but within the larger context and thinking about how it affects some of the important parts of our economy and our culture, it's been a tough summer. So I think it's of note to pay attention to that and not. It's a very localized impact that we can all see and feel and be aware of and raise awareness around. So with that, we're gonna start the meeting and talk about EV infrastructure. We've made some progress. As the last meeting, we had set out to meet with some of the supervisors and some of our hotspots based on the mapping that Don had done. And Don and I met with Supervisor Collins, Simmons, and Mayor Howe in the Ghent Chatham area a couple of weeks ago. We had a very productive meeting, and we further kind of homed in on the key spots that we think are attractive and then and have good potential. The ones we've talked about, and we're not going to rehash them all here, but we are now following up with business owners and trying to do the outreach there where we can gauge support and interest among those folks to then go to the next step, which is to bring the utility in and what they can do on the infrastructure side under the Make Ready, Charge Ready program. I've heard both terms. I'm not sure which one is actually accurate or if they're both accurate, but which can pick up most of the costs infrastructure if it's applied. And then to talk about other initiatives and other incentives for those folks to see if there's interest in moving forward and developing a project, and then bringing in some of the installers to meet with interested parties to really kind of put together a functional deal to see if something can move forward. So we're doing that also, and we're following up now. We're with Bill Mancini's help. We are reaching out to the leadership in Kinderhook and Valatia as well. So hopefully we'll have a meeting in the coming weeks, and then start really focusing in on, again, the business owners and landowners in the key spots that we want to engage with support from the town's leadership. I've reached out to the supervisors in Greenport and Livingston because those had some important hotspots as well, those towns. I have not heard back yet, so we'll continue following up. But if anyone has good relationships with those supervisors, then let me know, and maybe we can try a different tact to see if we can get an audience and see if there's really interest there. And I want to hear from Steve as to what's going on in New Lebanon. I know that they're working on this, and there are other initiatives around the county, so I'd like to hear about that. But before that, Brenda, you have your hand up?
I did. I just wondered how we were doing with the meeting with the utilities to understand what the current infrastructure and infrastructure rollout is. Aren't we going to meet with the 3 major utilities? And did that happen and I missed it? Well,
my recollection is we would wait to meet with the relevant utility in a particular spot when we have an interested landowner or business to engage in a conversation, a specific conversation. But I'm recalling now that we a broad effort. Can you refresh my memory on that? What we talked about with regard to like proactively reaching out to the utilities before we actually? I don't remember that exactly. And I think it's probably me not.
I don't remember exactly what we discussed. I just thought that we were going to have a small subcommittee meet with the utilities and better understand, because I think at least for the B3 exchange in Canaan, we were not kind of on the map, but I did find out that there is phase 3 power there and there is possibly capacity. And I wanted to verify that.
Oh, okay. So we should meet with the utility. Do you know what utility that is? Is it National Grid or not?
That's NYSEG. I mean, I can make the call myself. I just thought, why duplicate the call?
Well, that would be great. I'd love to participate. And that's a good example where there's a specific area where we can say, what can you do here? And then we'll learn a lot. I'm sure Don wants to participate too, because we're all learning how this actually works when it's on the ground. So do you want to reach out? Do you want us to reach out to
I can do that easily because we are talking to both Loves and to Envoy. Envoy just opened their first EV station in Pennsylvania. Loves has opened several, a couple in New York State, and they're all. But Loves, I think, has been working in a lease situation, whereas Envoy is doing it themselves. So they're both looking at this. And also, I understand that Tesla had approached the Sunoco station across the street, but it was too expensive to take the power under the thruway to the other side of the thruway. So it'll probably be concentrated on the 22 side of the thruway. But I can make the local call to NYSEG if Don can help me with a contact. I'm not sure who I'd call for that.
Yeah, I probably have a name that I can get you. I think there's a larger conversation for just the county too. I know we've been talking about that with the county engineer and trying to identify countywide what the infrastructure is like for the county to place their charging stations once we start moving into EVs. So there's a lot to talk about with the utilities there.
Don, a question is most of the Hudson Greenport County facilities is that National Grid or NYSEG?
That's National Grid. Hudson Greenport is National Grid. So
why don't maybe that's a second meeting and we focus specifically on the county's needs and the Hudson area, and we meet with National Grid separately. Let's do that. Let's make that happen, and then we can meet in Canaan with NYSEG. It's important for us to understand. I mean, none of us have really. I don't know any of us that have worked directly with this Make Ready, Charge Ready program and how it actually works. It's going to be very instructive. if there's anyone else on the call, Steve, I know you're active that wants to participate because you're actively engaged in, or Bill, in these discussions in your area or trying to learn more. By all means, please join us. And I mean, we can't have like a ton of people, obviously that's not workable, but if there's one or two more people that really want to join, let Don or I know and we'll include you. There's plenty of work. Steve?
Hi. Yes, I'd love to join. And, we had an analysis done by Mark Anthonison and a Cornell student in terms of the New Lebanon experience. And basically, they were not recommending a fast charger for New Lebanon if New Lebanon was going to install it ourselves for a number of reasons. One is there's a new fast charger coming in Pittsfield right over the hill and a Shell station. And also, I can send you their report, a lot of other factors that they were concerned about in terms of shifting landscape for EVs and charger technology.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Okay. But one of the big takeaways was that we should push the Canaan Love station as a potential charger there. I mean, that's very close to New Lebanon also, and there's a lot of volume, I think, coming off of 90 there.
Right. And Onvo, the competing center across the street, is in the process of doubling their capacity, both for fuel and for food service. So because there's so much overflow from Love's. So I think and I really do think it's a smart place to target. And it's in a commercial district and it's already got the power. So
yeah. But it has a lower amount of power, right? We can work with, we think we can, it has 3-phase power, but it's on the lower end of the spectrum according to Don's mapping.
Right,
which
exactly.
may be an issue, or maybe not.
Which is why we wanted to talk to NYSEG, right?
Right. So it's a great spot, in terms of the other factors, traffic certainly. There is a federal program that's escaping me right now, which provides funding through, when it's in proximity to interstate highway. And so I don't know if that would actually have a role there. That would be the only part of the county where it might have a role. So that's really interesting. So we'll follow up there. That's good. Thank you, Steve, because that's helpful to know that we're kind of consolidating our focus into the Canaan area and that part of the county. That makes a lot of sense. Is that a Tesla charger going in Pittsfield?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'll have to look and see.
There's already a Tesla is it Lee? Lee has a large bank of Tesla chargers in Lee.
And Pittsfield.
So I don't know if they put another one as close to Pittsfield.
Yeah. There is also the approach of, and I think we should do this in every case, reaching out to Tesla when we have a site in mind, because they are always looking for, as you mentioned, Brenda, they're always looking for sites and they'll come in and do it if they prioritize those sites. So we have that as well. So, okay, great. Anything else?
I'm just I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Columbia County is exactly.
NYSERDA wants to see something in the policy that has a statement about overall fleet efficiency goals in the future and overall individual efficiency standards for particular vehicle types. So that seems to be the two areas that are, need a little bit of help from anyone who can supply some help on that, the wording of those two sections there.
Thanks. Supervisor Adams? May have frozen. Supervisor Adams?
Is the original draft of the policy from a state agency?
It was a combination. I took a combination of, I think, 3 different counties and 3 different towns that had policies that seemed to meet all the requirements of NYSERDA CEC program, and I meshed them all together.
And so these notes, Don, are from people, either county staff or members of the task force that have read it so far.
Yes.
Okay.
So mainly David and I.
Okay.
And we'll clean it up. A
And-
bunch of them are edits, so we'll clean it up so it's
Okay.
a little clearer for you to see. There's a bunch of edits that are in there that can be, I think, accepted or rejected and cleaned
No,
up.
it's helpful. I think it's helpful to see the trail. My other question is, I had talked to, Jim's out this week, but I talked to someone else in his office, and I understood that the preponderance of vehicles, or the trend of county vehicles, was for leasing. Do you have any sense of how many vehicles we have that are leased versus how many we own?
Yes, there are about 60 that we lease and about 200 that we own. And
Okay.
the 200 we own include the large, dump trucks and snow plows.
Mhm.
Probably nearly half of them are those larger vehicles. So,
Okay.
Yep.
So there's still a good
That's
number that we purchase, it sounds.
oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
that are,
Right.
Like
Okay.
you.
Terrific. Good to know.
yeah. That's really the sweet spot and where the opportunity is for, I think, acquiring new EVs. So that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, this is a good example of where, and this is a little out of joint. It's not on the agenda, but Don and I have been talking about an intern and having interns regularly in the program that can support the work that Don is doing. There's a lot of minutia and a lot of detailed kind of data collection and follow up, and that's perfect work to delegate to someone who is, a recent graduate or grad student who wants to get into this field and is happy to do that. We need a modest budget to do that, or we need to tap into some existing county budget that provides for that. So we haven't made a formal request to do this, but I just wanted to raise that because it's been on our minds.
Mm-hmm. And to say that that was one of the concerns when I talked to a Supervisor Guzzi about the inventory. Who's going to maintain this inventory, year after year. I mean, it was quite a bit of work to put it together to start with. Probably less work to update it and maintain it, but it will have to be maintained ongoing, annually.
And there's also,
It's-
go ahead, Brenda.
It's interesting because towns do require their, a vehicle inventory. So I'm wondering if there's some subset of a department that we have for whom this would be kind of a natural segue. I can't answer that question, but
Yeah.
I know that we require our highway superintendent to give us a list of vehicles with mileage and condition and replacement costs annually, and we always look at that as part of our budgeting process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I know that. Yeah, the inventory is there. It's in two different places. One for the leases, one for the owned vehicles, and the owned ones are the list for the owned vehicles are in two different places. One's at Central Garage, and another one is at the Highway Garage because they maintain those vehicles in two different locations. But the inventory doesn't include all of the information that NYSERDA wants to see in order for us to qualify under the program. So, and it's it's meshing it all together. So
yeah,
it's a little extra work.
Thanks for taking it on.
Okay.
As an example, the other examples are of recurring work that require data collection. That could be done by an intern, would be the benchmarking work and eventually updating a more robust government operations greenhouse gas inventory. All of those things, once set up, are fairly not straightforward, but there's a path for how you actually do the work and how you enter it and how you gather it. And Don can advise on that. But going out and gathering the data from the different departments and entering it in is a lot. I don't know how much work we could quantify it, but it's a lot. And Don's time could be much better spent on some of the more high level, like the mapping, for example, high level work and outreach and coordination that he's doing also. So it's really a need. We're going to talk about a funding request later on, but we're not making a specific request for this because I think the county has resources, I understand, for interns. It's unclear how we could qualify for some of that so that we could actually hire someone next year. So we'll follow up and we'll ask and we'll try to get more information. But if anyone has any other ideas, don't hesitate. Okay, moving along. The clean energy. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong. Excuse me. Wait, no, I'm here. You want to give a quick update, Don, on the clean energy grant?
Yeah, sure. So we have submitted the application for the $15,000 grant that we received due to the Heat Smart campaign, and we got the okay. The NYSERDA has approved that, and we are moving into, the contract negotiations of who does what when, and when do we get the actual money once we start the project. We also got a notification that we are eligible for the solar campaign grant, that retroactive $15,000 grant. So we got an email saying we can apply for that, and I contacted the person at NYSERDA and let them know that we intended to roll those things together, to combine them, so we can, it's just easier to administer these two grants as one under one contract than it is to duplicate the paperwork for two different projects. So we're going to combine them. We have to submit a resolution and a letter of commitment to the various committees, and it goes to the Board of Supervisors for their approval. But once that happens, we can bring this back to NYSERDA and combine those two grants into one to apply a total of $30,000 toward the solar, the photovoltaic solar panels on the DSS building in Hudson. So that's our intention there, and that's all underway.
Great. Now onto a segue is into a request that we'd like to make for funding. I'm going to share my screen. Does this work? I'm on no, can't share my screen. Okay. Well, excuse me. So I sent out a Word document about 15 minutes ago on the same chain that Maureen sends the agenda. So we can just pull it up, but it's a request for funding. It's a request that the county allocate funding for specific purposes to use to fully utilize the clean energy community funds that we've raised and some other funds. The amount is $115,000, and that we would like. Oh, great! Thank you. Is that you, Don?
Yep.
Great. There we go. Could you just make it a little bigger?
Yep.
Thanks. So $5,000 came in the end of last year. That was when we qualified to join the program, Clean Energy Program. That's unrestricted. It came in and it hasn't been, as far as we know, spent on anything. $15,000 and $15,000. That's what Don was just talking about. Those funds that have come from the clean energy and or the clean heating, cooling, efficiency campaign and the solar campaign either have come in and have been approved, and the dates are on there, or the application's being submitted, and those funds are being used for a pre-existing project that had been fully funded. So this was not anticipated as part of that funding, the $30,000. But because we need to use it within a short time frame, and if you haven't planned anything out, you need to find a project or you lose the money. We're trying to, and we think we'll be successful at using that money to offset budgeted money for those for that project, that solar project. So we would like to, given that was already budgeted, we would like to see if we could get that funding allocated for next year to be used for projects that were not budgeted, but that could be. And what we're talking about here are any of the clean energy program projects. So EV charging, infrastructure, solar, electric landscape equipment, energy studies, efficiency upgrades, municipal buildings. What we want to focus on are EVs and EV charging infrastructure. It's simple, it's clean, the technology's there, and there's already a need and an interest in the county to start moving this direction. The other two, the $40,000 One is if we get additional installations by the end of the year, we would qualify for another 40,000. It normally would be 30, but because it would be located, the project would be located in Hudson, it would bump up to 40. And what's the term for the community? It's written at the bottom here. At any rate, why that extra 10,000? And then the second 40,000, yeah, it's disadvantaged community. Is with all have all of these in the point where I would qualify to apply for that for the end of the year. And this is why
You're breaking up, David. You're breaking up.
Hear me now? Is that better?
No.
Not real well.
You may want to turn up. There you go.
I come on the left, so I don't know if you can hear me.
No.
So if we just have a question,
No, it's worse.
No.
back here. All right.
And Don, try taking the document down.
Yep.
Do you want to try speaking again, David?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
he's rebooting.
he logged off and is
Yeah.
coming back again.
I see him twice.
Yeah.
This twice. What's going on? That's weird.
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Weird connection.
Oof.
So
Yeah, I'm still.
So weird.
let me dial in.
Terrence has his hand up. Is that Terrence?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I should wait till David rejoins. I was just wondering if this resolution should call out that we would hope the budget directs things, directs those grants to Hudson, and it describes how we get the extra $10,000 if it's spent in Hudson. But I wondered if the resolution should just direct the county to use that money in Hudson, make it a little more explicit.
I think it has. I'm back on it. I don't know if you can hear me, hopefully, but it has to be used. I think the way it works is we qualify for the extra money if it's used in that disadvantaged community. So that's why we qualify. Is that right, Don?
Yeah, Hudson or Greenport, we get the extra 10,000 on top of the 30.
Because so much of the county's infrastructure is in Hudson and Greenport, it's easy to do it. It doesn't. It's not a lot of extra effort.
Just a housekeeping issue. Do we have a quorum?
Maureen, do we have a quorum?
We need 12 people for a quorum. We have 11.
Oh, okay. Well, that means we can't take a vote on this anyway. That's too bad. are there any other comments on it? We will have to either. I mean, we can follow up with a vote by email. Is that correct?
I don't know if we are allowed to vote by email, if our bylaws include that prerogative or permission.
All right, we'll check on that.
Okay.
If not, we'll have to wait for the next meeting. Brenda, what about timing? If we were to, we're just making a request that the county consider this as part of its budgeting process. How are we doing if we get this task in early September in terms of just bringing it forward to the relevant committees and getting the requests heard?
Committee meetings are starting on the 14th and running through the 17th. But doesn't mean that we can't take this informally. I mean, even though we didn't have a quorum today, we could certainly submit this informally for consideration. But this is, we're under county government, and county government meets on the 16th.
Okay. Do you have any suggestions?
We can talk about the mechanics if you want offline. I can call Ron Knott and see what he thinks we can do in terms of moving it
Okay,
forward.
that sounds good.
Okay.
Does anyone have any opinions or concerns or any additional comments on this before we move on? Okay, great. The idea obviously is to try to secure some allocation of funds that the department have access to proactively for the acquisition. It would probably be, for a few vehicles and some charging infrastructure, 2 to 3 vehicles and the necessary charging infrastructure just to get started, get some experience with electric vehicles. And once you go, you're never going to turn back, I'll tell you. Pretty exciting stuff. So, okay, we're moving along. Sorry about that. Let me just pull up.
I can try to get Bruce to come on the call quickly if you want this vote today. We only need one person, right?
Yes.
Yeah, can you do that while we're going through the rest of the agenda?
Yeah.
Great.
Might as well.
Yep. Okay. So, Christina, I don't know if Christina's on, if there's an update on the clean heating and cooling campaign, and then we're going to have an update on the CART. And I know there's information there.
All right, I think Tistry is coming on the call now.
Oh, great. Just to clarify, is Christina on the call? Maybe not.
She was.
I saw her earlier, but I don't see her now.
Okay. Well, I think let's go to Audrey and get an update on the resilience plan and planning that's going on.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. We actually have quite a bit to update on. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So just as part of the process, we are finalizing some of the last climate smart resiliency planning tool meetings and meetings with last couple of municipalities in August. And you may have all seen that I recently sent out the survey. It's a vulnerability assessment and story of place survey. We truncated it down to be just a front and back of a printed page. It is available as a online Qualtrics form as well. And we sent out recently to the leadership teams in the municipalities that are participating in the CART kind of a package to get it distributed out in the community. So that included the link that can be forwarded by email to anyone, and included a flyer which has a QR code that links to that Qualtrics link. And that flyer can also accompany it as kind of a description, a print version that could be printed out and brought to events and, local community events for being, filled out in print and then returned to us. As well, we put together a social media package. So there's a image and, a description, text description that can accompany that image on social media. You may have all seen Don posted it up on the county's Climate Smart Communities page and out to your social media outlets. And we've encouraged all of the municipalities to do the same. So in addition, we've sent the link and the flyer out to all of the stakeholders that were identified through the questionnaire that we sent out back in May. So we had the leadership teams identify local stakeholders and give us their contact information, so they have directly received the survey, as well as the participants in the webinar that we held late in June. We followed up with them with the survey as well, having their contact information. And we just blanketly also sent it out to all the town halls and as well the libraries in the county. And we also included that social media link, hoping that in a variety of ways we can get everybody to kind of get it out there on social media. And we have plans to directly send it out to some other potential community stakeholders like schools and colleges. And we've identified a few kind of there's a lot of contacts on the county's website for partner organizations that we're sending it along to. And I just wanted to put a call out there for folks to, if you don't have it, if you would like me to send you a copy of the flyer, but if it can be posted, locally in your community for places that, the public passes through, maybe convenience stores, bodegas, laundromats, anywhere folks might take an interest or take a minute to maybe snap the QR code. The link is also on the flyer if people want to write it down as well. So, the more we get it out there, the more input we can get back and, really have some, good community-based information to include in the plan into the plan. So really quickly, I did want to also just kind of talk about moving forward our plans and maybe get a little bit of feedback from you all on those plans. So as part of this process, by the way, the survey will be running through the Columbia County Fair. We'll have it at the Columbia County Fair. So it closes on the last day of the fair on September 4th. But our plan is to have 2 workshops for each municipality, one being kind of a vulnerability assessment workshop and kind of future scenario planning, and then participatory mapping, vulnerability assessment workshop. And that we're hoping, we've picked out some dates. I wanted to run these out by you. Obviously, logistically, we'll need to ensure that these work with the potential venues that we want to hold them in. But we're splitting the county in half. We're kind of having a north cohort. I think that's about 8 municipalities. And then there's a southern cohort that's about 9 municipalities. I can spell those out to you if you want. But the southern cohort, we hope to have that workshop on September 21st. And the northern cohort, we hope to have that vulnerability assessment and participatory mapping workshop on the 27th. Then the second round of workshops, we are planning to hold in October. And for the southern cohort, we would we've got the October 19th planned. And then for the northern cohort, we have October 25th planned. Very quickly, we had batted around some ideas for venues. So as I mentioned, we're looking at 8 municipalities in one cohort and 9 in another. So, you know, we hope to have maybe 4 to 6 representatives per community at the workshop. So we're looking at roughly, 40 to 60 people. So we thought the southern cohort, we might be able to hold it at Columbia Green Community College. And we also batted around the idea for a venue in the northern section called PS 21. I'm not sure if I wasn't familiar with it. Somebody else brought it up to us. But if you all, kind of being from Columbia County, have ideas for potential venues that might work for that size of crowd, that, I'd love to hear your input. So our intention is to kind of have a larger group portion of the workshop where we'll kind of do a little presentation, a little background information, and then work on breaking out into roughly, we're looking at like 4 breakout groups, so about 2 municipalities per breakout group to go through some exercises and do that more local participatory mapping exercise. And likely a similar format for both sets of workshops. The second workshop, I don't know if I mentioned, will be kind of role and running through those future scenarios. So simulating futures, and then kind of second portion of that, prioritizing and identifying strategies. And this, we intend to be following up with another public survey to get kind of broad community input on adaptation strategies and vision. So that, I think, is like the bulk of my update, and I wanted to know if anybody had any questions or input.
Yeah, we're gonna. I just had a question. You said the 21st to the south, 27th or the 22nd. You're aiming for the north.
27th. So Thursday.
Okay, 27th.
And the next Wednesday.
Great. So if you have specific information on timing and as you clarify the venues, please send that to us, and then we can continue to transmit it back to folks in our communities. And anything else that you think we can help out with, that would be great. Please, folks, tell people in your communities and in your towns, in your town leadership to take the survey if possible. And promote it. Any other questions? We're going to go back to the vote because we have History has joined us or will join us in a moment. She's just juggling another couple things. So any other comments or questions for Audrey?
I will throw in, we're looking at trying to do it. So you mentioned timing from like a 1 to 4. So about a 3-hour long session for the workshops.
Can I make a recommendation? I don't know what day of the week that is, but most working people can't attend that. So you're going to cut off a lot of people. So you might get professionals that are in that field. You'll get those people anyway, I'm sure. If you can find evening time. Okay. That's good. History's on, but if you could possibly find some evening times or at least bridge that gap, that usually helps.
Yeah.
If you have other suggestions, let's go to this vote. I'm sorry, Audrey. It's just we're trying to get a quorum here. But thank you so much for the update. That's really helpful. And that was good information. If anyone has questions or suggestions
too.
Great. So we have Tisria, thank you for joining. I think you're on. I think we have a quorum. So Tisria, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you so much. So we have this request for funding, the resolution. If there are no other comments on it, we need a motion and a second and then a vote.
I'll make a motion.
Do you have any comments? Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as emailed to us.
Great.
I'll second.
Second.
I'll
Great.
second.
That's Steve Powers, Bill Mancini. We'll say all in favor, and then I'll ask for any against, and including raise your hand. So all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
The only way to verify whether we have any abstentions or no votes is to raise your hand at this point or speak up. Great, thank you. It passed unanimously, and thank you, Tessia, for joining us. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's very
sorry,
helpful.
I'm at the orthodontist, but thanks for bringing me in. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Know how it is. That was great. All right. So I did see Christina join us. I think you're on, Christina. We can get a quick update on the clean energy, clean cooling, heating, and efficiency campaign, possibly.
Yes, absolutely. Hi. Sorry, I got cut off there for a minute. But yes, the campaign is still rolling along. I think we have 43 currently, and I do have one contractor who hasn't given me an update since May. He says he has 16 installs, but I don't have the data yet. But if that's true, you're well on your way to the next tier. If those are all in June and July. So that's awesome. We are talking to Stuyvesant about doing a workshop there this fall. I don't know if the county would still like us to do another like countywide advertised Zoom only like we did in February. We had talked initially about doing that in the fall as well. Let us know if that's still something of interest. Very easy to do. But yeah, I also wanted to let you guys know that it does sound, I reported last month that they took energy efficiency out of the clean heating and cooling campaign, which upset myself and many others, but it seems like NYSERDA is looking to actually add another independent community campaign that is just energy efficiency. And to me, it makes a lot of sense to run that simultaneously with the clean heating and cooling. So when that does come down, I would recommend, as we're doing so much outreach that covers both, to try to do both. So that's kind of all I have.
Great. Supervisor Adams.
Christina, I had a question. I'm wondering if you can help. We put a heat pump in our library, and it is the 100% of the library. It's the only source in the library, but we're told that it doesn't qualify for the campaign because it's not 1,000 square feet. It's a branch library. Is there any help or assistance that you might get us? Because we didn't understand that limitation when we did it, obviously.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I will talk to Tara Donadio, who handles more of the campaign to NYSERDA end. It was a big push for the library board of directors. Yeah. For
the community. We wanted to do this and be kind of a leading light kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any help you can provide would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I will definitely get that feedback in, because that's the first I've heard of something not being under a certain square footage, not counting. So very apologetic about that.
Well, let's see if we can fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Steve.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I was told that town buildings don't count for the residential. You're trying to get it under the residential category, Brenda? You're muted.
Brenda, you're muted.
I didn't make that distinction, Steve. I just got a report from the Town Climate Smart Task Force, and I don't know under what category they put it.
Yeah, so, I'm guessing that
libraries also
is not the size.
Libraries also don't always count as municipal buildings. Like they don't count in a greenhouse gas inventory and things like that. So that's another element to look into, which I will do.
Thank you both.
Christina, thanks for the update. You said a workshop, and I can you just give us, do you have any details or any information on that yet?
No, I think Fiona Hayes, who's the energy advisor for Columbia County now, has been working with me closely, and she's talking to the town of Stuyvesant, I believe, tomorrow about the logistics for that. But I think they were looking at mid-October.
Great. Okay, that's great. Keep us updated, please. And any other questions for Christina? Good stuff. Well, to power all these electric vehicles and all of these heat pumps, we need more solar and other forms of renewables. We are tracking down the information that folks have been wanting from our community solar partners. And we did get a preliminary report this morning from Neighborhood Sun and Oya. The news is not particularly encouraging, but at least we have some clarification. It looks like the National Grid customers that are on the list, and let me just pull this up. Maybe this isn't complete. It's really hard to tell, but there are 43 listed here. Those folks are expected to be put into projects by the end of the year, if not sooner. So that's the good news. And then there are at least 60 folks that are in the NYSEG territory, and that's not as encouraging. There's no capacity right now, and it's not expected till at the earliest the middle of next year. So it's unclear what's going to happen with those people that had signed up to subscribe. Neighborhood Sun has told us that they are reaching out to folks. To my knowledge, that hasn't happened yet. And part of the issue here is Neighborhood Sun is working with a variety of partners like Oya, who we were working with in this case, who have hit the wall, I suppose, and just don't have any capacity or have other operational issues in their companies. That's what's going on. There are other companies that have come to us, and Don can give us an update recently saying, would you like to run another campaign with us? I don't think we're in a position to do that until we get more clarification on what's really being offered to people. I mean, one of the lessons obviously here is that we need to have more solar projects smartly sited and approved and developed, but that's the longer term. That's not going to solve this problem for these people in the next 6 months or a year. There are projects in the pipeline that they could eventually get on, but we need a larger pipeline. Supervisor Adams?
I spoke with Brian Busby just coincidentally yesterday of Ampion, and he told me that NYSEG does have capacity through an old plant. It's one of the original solar plants that came online, and that people could be in service, so to speak, receiving their rebates within 90 days. Because we're continuing to get calls from people who say, can I sign up? Can I sign up? So he said the only caveat with that is that this is, because it's one of the earlier installations, you have to accept the 2-tier billing, and which is, an obstacle or a barrier for some people who don't want to have to understand and explain or keep up with that. But he did say that there is capacity available through NYSEG. And he also said that they're running a new campaign, and I can send the flyer to Don or Maureen for distribution. They're running a low-income campaign. That's where they're getting more incentives from the states right now, and they do have capacity for low-income residents campaigns. So, there may be a distinction between, the kind of the middle income and up consumer and the lower income, but he said there is low-income capacity available.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And we have heard from, we've got some questions we'll go to right now, but Don can also give us an update on some of the other companies that have reached out to us recently, inquiring about and expressing that they have capacity. I don't know who is first. Matthew.
Hi, Brenda. Yeah, just on that note, I'd be curious to learn more about that. Just because I know receiving the incentive sounds tantalizing, but Kara Humphreys has told us that we won't receive incentives until we get our first solar credits, until the credits actually appear on the bill. So that distinction has to be made very clear to people who sign up. At least that's Neighborhood Sun's policy. I imagine it's people's other policies. And I know that when they target low-income communities, sometimes there's not a great deal about, transparency. So that just have to really, I'd like to know more about that, and curious to know what their policy is in terms of the incentives and when people actually get it. Because we're not going to see anything here in Germantown until the credits start to appear.
Thank you. John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you have something else, Matthew?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
I had a conversation with Kara last night. She called in. I was left with the impression that the two towns that were first to meet the target, Germantown and Claverack, that we would be getting in on that process sooner rather than later. And she said also that one of our town buildings is already getting a discount, which it's all just kind of a curiosity, but that was indication to me that there is slow progress being made.
All right. Well, we'll follow up with Amphion. Thank you, Brenda. And we'll also follow up with the folks that have reached out to Don to see if maybe some of these people can switch to, a different company from Neighborhood Sun, if that gets them, moved on more quickly. At least give people options and try to facilitate some better communication with folks.
So I just sent the low income flyer. I just sent that, and also I sent Brian Busby's cover letter so you could see exactly how he phrased the available capacity.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
The last thing that I have is just to prompt people who are interested in continuing to serve on the task force next year to let me know. We will be advertising to the towns. The way it's going to work next year, according to the bylaws for the task force that were passed by the Board of Supervisors at the beginning of the year, is that we need nominees from the town, similar to the EMC, and I think strong preference would be made for those active participants on the task force now to continue, if possible. And so you can communicate that to me, and we'll make sure that is put forward. And also, please communicate it to your town boards or supervisor or mayor, so they know that when they get that notice, that you can explain the situation and how it's going to change, and they're aware of your interest. So I don't have anything more on that. I just want to make sure that we're helping to facilitate this process the first time, in terms of making sure that we have names in a timely manner, and we have people, more importantly, that are really interested in serving. We don't need bodies. We need folks like the ones on this call right now who participate. So thank you for that participation. Let me know if how you feel about continuing next year. That's all I have. I don't know if folks have anything else or any thoughts on that last point. Okay. So hopefully the good weather continues, but there's no guarantee. We know that, right? No guarantee. But at least we have it today. So go out and enjoy the day, and keep up the good work. Thank you all for your participation, your time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye-bye.
you.